we have a website. It's called whatsonsports.com. We invite you to go over and check it out. We also remind you that this show is available in full. You can download it from your favorite podcast platform. So if you guys want to do that, you can. Over at over at What's on Sports, we have what we call a mailbag. We send in different questions every week. This week, we've got 3 great questions. I have not read these questions yet. I have not looked at them yet. Lance will read the questions. I will try to answer them. Lance can jump in, of course, say some cool stuff. Let's go to question number 1.
Okay, so this is from Tony of Oklahoma. So if Andy Reid wins another Super Bowl, will he be a lock-in for the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
The answer to that question is no, Tony. Andy Reid will not be a lock if he wins another Super Bowl because he's a lock already. I mean, I think this guy's been to 7 NFC championship games. This will be his 3rd Super Bowl. He made Donovan McNabb into a superstar quarterback. He revitalized Michael Vick's quarterback career. Now he's been part of a revolution with Patrick Mahomes. People forget because Mahomes is so good that before Mahomes actually took over the team, Alex Smith was having an MVP type of season. Andy Reid is without a doubt one of the best quarterbacks of the entire generation of coaches. One of the best coaches of the entire generation of coaches that I've ever seen. So Andy Reid is 100% a Hall of Fame coach today if he were to retire. What do you think, Lance?
Yeah, 100%. Andy Reid has already proven his worth with that run that he had in Philadelphia. It's just that he couldn't get over the hump. But calculating or counting all of the achievements that he has done with Donovan McNabb and eventually Michael Vick with that roster, and of course the constant criticism and bickering from a Philadelphia fanhood that is hard to please. So job well done for Andy Reid. It's just funny that if you're going to assess his career early on, he looks like a failure, but now in his 60s, he looks like an elite coach. So really, some things just really take time for you to materialize. And now Andy Reid is reaping the rewards at an advanced age. Now, you couldn't question that he is up for canon because of a Super Bowl title.
You know, people try to judge these guys in the middle of a career, in the middle of like everyone has a bad year. Like it's just things happen. Bad moments. You know, Andy Reid was going to NFC championship games over and over again. And people were criticizing him. It's like Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher took the Steelers to an AFC championship game after AFC championship game. You know, he lost them. But, you know, it's not easy to get to the AFC or NFC championship game. 4 teams made it to the championship this year. 28 teams didn't. So there's no shame in going to an AFC championship game, an NFC championship game, and losing. There is some shame in finishing 1-16, 1-15, or 2-14, like some of these pathetic teams did. So I don't think you ever put Andy Reid in that category of failure, in my opinion. Let's go to question number 2 today. This one comes from...
Okay, this is from Ernest of Ohio. So hello, Ernest, if you're watching. So what's your take on retired NBA superstars criticizing today's crop of players?
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with retired superstars of any sport criticizing people who are doing something that they were great at. I have no problem with it. There are things in my life that I happen to be very good at. I've owned restaurants in my life. When I go into a restaurant, I critique the restaurant. When I used to be very good at certain other things that I won't mention on the show. If I were to see somebody do it, I would automatically critique them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially when you look at like a Charles Barkley, a Dr. J, a Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When these guys come out and speak, there used to be a commercial. It was like Payne in America. There was this commercial about this insurance company called Payne Weber, and it would be Payne Weber. When Payne Weber speaks, everyone listens because Payne Weber had been around for so long, and it was a respected institution. It was bullshit. It was a scam. It was an insurance company. But the idea of that is when somebody older than me speaks, when somebody with more maturity and more experience speaks, I listen. If they want to critique what I'm doing, especially if it's something they've done before, I think they have every right to do it. As a young person, it becomes, you take it almost like as an offense. When you start to hit your middle age, you start to realize people that are older than you always know more, only because you realize You know more than you used to know. I wish I could go back and talk to my 25-year-old self and say, hey, idiot, look at all these dumb things you're doing. Trust me, they don't work. I probably wouldn't have listened, but I wish I could go back and say that. My father would tell me things as I was growing up that I would think, wow, this guy just, what is he talking about? But he was right about almost everything. So I think that that's the same thing we're talking about. If you want to say that an NBA player is being sensitive about it, well, that's just being a spoiled, rich, privileged person. You have to take some criticism every once in a while, especially from some of the superstars. What do you think?
Yeah, I believe that you are onto something here, but I guess you have to listen to the voices that matter. I guess that's what boils down into. And second of all, life is a continuous learning process. And if you look at the statements in another way, you'll see them as for the better and not as negative criticism. It's for you to realize that there's something lacking in your game, that there's something yet that you can still improve. And if you look at it at a different light, it's just these superstars love your game, that they want to help you even more, to improve more, and to become the best player that you can be. So if it's a comment from some blogger from some country that you don't know of, you wouldn't listen to that. But if it's a Shaquille O'Neal or a Charles Barkley who has proven their worth in the game, those are the voices that matter. I mean, there are a lot of voices that we listen to or hear to every day, but only a few matter. And you must make those few voices that matter really count. And it has to show in the improvement of yourself, in the improvement of your maturity, because you're young and you still have to grow maturity. And of course, improvement in your game as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I just have this other theory too, and maybe I'm not. Maybe everyone doesn't think like me, but it's not like in my life an older person has never criticized me. Of course they have, and I haven't always been happy about it, but I accept it. I say, okay, you obviously think that I'm not doing something, or whatever your criticism is. I accept your criticism. That's fine. I don't have to agree with it, but I definitely accept it. I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. To me, that's all about being an older person and having a certain amount of respect for someone that's older than me and their opinion. Let's go to our last question for the day.
Okay, so our last question for today comes from Jonas from San Francisco. And he asked, will Matthew Stafford's arrival to the Rams alter the draft strategy of the other NFC West teams?
Actually, this is a great question. I'm a big believer in the fact that teams inside your own conference, inside your own division in particularly, are built to beat your team. So when you look at the Baltimore Ravens and their defense, that defense is really made to take out the Steelers. Like, that defense is perfectly made to take out the Steelers. And the Steelers have a defense that is perfectly made, or not perfectly made, but tried to be perfectly made to take out the Ravens. So I think that's something that happens. You have to play these teams twice a year. They are your rival. They are your arch enemy. So your defenses and your offenses are built to handle the other team. So I do believe that the NFC West has changed because they know that Matthew Stafford is the real deal. So Arizona didn't have a good defense to begin with. The 49ers defense was decimated with injuries. I don't know if either one of those teams is going to make some moves on defense. I can see the 49ers doing it, and I can see Arizona maybe doing it. Their offense, to me, is loaded with just so many toys and weapons. I can't imagine that they don't try to improve that defense. Seattle, I think it goes without saying, needs to improve their defense. So I'm not sure they're going to do it because they're going to play Stafford twice a year. I think they're just going to do it because they have no choice. They can't continue to score 35 points a game. So it's an interesting thing to see these teams evolve as the year goes on, as the offseason goes on. But I would say that I would guess that there's going to be some definite alarm bells going off in some of these places, some of these institutions where they're going to say, hey, listen, the Rams proved at the end of last year that they have a great running game. They've got an elite defense. Now they've got a quarterback. They've always had weapons at wide receiver and tight end. This team could be freaky scary. So, yeah, I think you'll see some adjustments coming up I don't know what those adjustments will be. I don't know if there's enough talent on the NFL to actually come in here and actually create a defense that can stop this offense. But, we'll see what happens. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I guess the three general managers of the other teams in NFC West already had a draft strategy in place. And then when the alert came that Matthew Stafford is coming to the Rams, they just tear it all up. Okay, so we're back to the drawing board. Here's what we need to do. So on both ends of the ball, the Rams are simply dominant. They also have Stafford already. And based on what has happened during the season, for Seattle, it really is the defensive backs and the offensive line, because we just saw what the Rams defensive line did to the Seattle O-line. So they just punished them all throughout the game, and they were able to penetrate through and through for the entire 60 minutes. So for Arizona, you're right. They all have the offensive weapons already. And for all of those three teams, I guess the priority now is to slow down Stafford. So I guess they already had strategies in place prior to Stafford coming in, because it was reported by most media outfits that he was going to Indianapolis. So we were led to believe that he was going to the AFC. And then all of a sudden, out of left field, here comes Stafford in the Rams. So however thick their draft strategy might have been before Stafford coming in, they just put it in the fire and they have to start anew.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that is becoming slowly, and if it's not already there, it's definitely up there as maybe the top division in the entire NFL. That's going to be an interesting division line next year. 4 really good teams in that division. I think Arizona takes a step. I think San Francisco gets healthy, becomes a better team again. Seattle's already a good team with a ton of weapons. The Rams are absolutely loaded right now. That's a tough division. I'm so happy my Steelers are not in that division. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that enjoyed the show, for those of you that had a little fun here today, remember you can download the whole podcast at any of your favorite podcast platforms. We're also going to cut this show up into tiny little clips, put them on YouTube. If you're watching at home right now, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. My name is John Todora. That little tiny box next to me over there. Oh, I'm sorry. He's over there. There he is. That guy right there. That's Lance Fernandez. We are the What's on Sports crew. Go check out our articles and all the good stuff happening over at whatsonsports.com. Lance, say goodbye.